So they're going to carry out the vote in 10 minutes is expected. They're going to get hundreds of MPs through two little doors in 10 minutes while social distancing. My arse. Does he not know what that tape is for? That tape is just standing on instead of behind. No, apparently not.
Order.
The ayes to the right, 340. The noes to the left, 263.
The ayes to the right, 340. The noes to the left, 263.
Oh,
so the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlock.
Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I shall be discussing that result, which was for the second reading of the Internal Markets Bill, the one that of course will breach international law. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, a little bit past my bedtime here, I had to wait up a bit. And there is, lots of things have closed down because of COVID. Theatres have closed down, but there is one theatre that has not closed down in this country, and that is Westminster, with Boris Johnson, of course, presenting his comedy of errors. The day started out very, very interesting. It hasn't ended as we might have hoped, although it's not unexpected either. There were interesting developments from my point of view as the news filtered through to me. The first one of note was a government minister, a junior minister, not a cabinet minister, Kit Malthouse, who tried to suggest that treaties, between different countries, were really based on the sort of a spirit of the rules rather than the actual rule of law. Essentially, trying to argue that there's no such thing as international law. Now, that is a novel approach. I'll give him that. He was all for novel approaches last year as well. Trying to argue that there's no such thing as international law. Good one. Have fun with that. And Boris Johnson was in trouble this morning. You've sort of seen the result. It's gone through to its second reading quite easily. Doesn't mean to say it will go all the way through. I'll come to that in a moment. But there was real trouble this morning because Alex Sharma, who is the business secretary, was supposed to open the debate. And that was changed to Boris Johnson. The Prime Minister was to open the debate with Michael Gove closing it. And that is because they were hearing of a growing backbench rebellion. And throughout the debate, we saw a significant number of Conservative MPs saying that they could not support this. So they needed their biggest hitters out for it. They were throwing everything at this. Then I saw several Conservative MPs, really, backbench MPs as well, really going public with the fact that they would not support it. Now, usually that is a sure sign that first of all, they're not going to change their mind, but also that there's probably a groundswell of views from MPs who maybe don't want to stick their heads above the parapet, but are nonetheless behind them. Then a junior minister resigned his position. So the first member of the government to actually resign over this. Then Geoffrey Cox, who is the former Attorney General, said that he would abstain, but then I think later on said that he would vote against it. Now, I haven't, although we've just seen the results there, it's late now and I'll get this out for first thing tomorrow or today at the point at where you're watching this. It's first thing today. Hello. I'm still in bed. But depending on when you're watching it. I want to see the breakdown of who voted against it from the Conservatives, who abstained, and all the rest of it. But we can worry about that later because this isn't the end of it. This is still going to run this week. But yeah, so the Attorney General there, the former Attorney General. Sajid Javid, who's the former Chancellor, again a senior member of the party, also announced his opposition to it. Now, from the point of view of Boris Johnson, your first thing you hear when you hear that Boris Johnson is going to be opening the debate is, Keir Starmer will enjoy pulling his pants down twice in 1 week. Unfortunately, Starmer couldn't be there because a member of his household has symptoms and they need to be tested. So he is having to isolate. And you might have thought that that would be a bit of a let-off for Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, tweeted out his sympathies to Keir Starmer and said, very genuinely, I hope everything's all right, which is nice. But you sort of felt he was really saying, can you make sure you're still off this Wednesday, please? which he may be. But if he thought he was going to get an easy ride, then he was wrong. Because the shadow business secretary was at the dispatch box to take him on. Ed Miliband, who was the former Labour leader. This was the Labour leader before Jeremy Corbyn. And absolute powerhouse of a speech he gave, and he completely stitched Boris Johnson up. It was beautiful to watch. And it elicited a number of very strange comments from people, because you had people going, oh my God, this is amazing. Like Ed Miliband. And you're trying to say to these people, he was the Labour leader a few years ago. Do you not remember? And I, there were people saying when Keir Starmer brought Ed Miliband back onto his front bench, why are you getting a failed Labour leader back onto your front bench? Well, this is why. Ed Miliband was not great in the campaign. He didn't sell Labour to the public. But do you know what? He's a bloody good frontline politician. Really good. And this is what I tried to say. He is very, very good. I had a lot of respect for Ed Miliband. Still do, of course. And this is why. He's not a great general, but he's a bloody good captain. And one of his best bits, which has been retweeted within a few hours, was retweeted 2 million times, was when he was saying to Boris, because Boris Johnson's trying to say we need the offending clauses in. The whole bill is horrendous, but the particular clauses that are causing such controversy, we need them in to prevent the EU blockading, and stopping food getting from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. As if the EU are going to blockade anything. They don't have a fleet, you idiot. What are they going to blockade it with? You idiot. Anyway, he was trying to say that, and Ed Miliband pointed out there doesn't seem to be anything in these clauses that would prevent it. And he said, maybe I've missed something. Maybe you'd like to tell me. And he said, I'm quite happy to give way to the Prime Minister if he wants to stand up and point out where in this bill that I've obviously missed, because, I'm not a details person like he is, where I've missed this clause, he could point it out to me, could he not? And he was really taunting him. Come on. Boris Johnson just sat there, arms folded, not moving. Absolutely stitched him up. Oh, it was brilliant. And because the bill doesn't do that, because the bill does not do what Boris Johnson says it does. It's just one of the lies being told to people who will not read it for themselves, and they certainly won't read what legal experts have had to say on the matter. But, he dared Johnson to stand up and point it out to him, and he wouldn't do it. And, absolutely stuffed him. Excellent performance. And it shows the strength of the front bench, because there is another one coming as well. Now, like I said, this bill is unacceptable on any level, because it's a power grab. It's not just the SNP saying it's a power grab on Scotland. It is, and on the rest of the UK. Bear in mind. And the ridiculous thing about this scenario today is the only thing stopping that bill going through in all of its misplaced glory is the fact that it empowers ministers of the Crown to tear up international treaties, which, despite what you may be hearing from some quarters, is against the law. And I will remind people that isn't a political judgment. The government's own law officers say that this treaty breaks the law. This bill breaks international law. Because what some people are trying to say is, no, it doesn't. It allows ministers to break the law, but it doesn't mean to say they have to. No. The bill does break international law in itself, just the bill existing. The ministers don't even have to use the power in these clauses. It breaks a treaty. It replaces lines in the withdrawal agreement in British law, which is a breach of the treaty. It's been pointed. There isn't a single legal expert says otherwise. Not a single one. Not even the government's legal experts, who, even the ones arguing that it's fine to do it, do not argue that it's not a breach of international law. And this is the stupidity of Boris Johnson. These clauses don't actually do him any good at all, because he wouldn't really dare break international law. He daren't. He's trying to say that it's a negotiating strategy. And I believe him on this occasion, because he would not dare let the UK leave in a position. Because what this bill is going to do when it's enacted, the United States won't touch us. They've said that. They will not touch us. Other countries have said the same. Obviously, the EU are. But the US and the EU are the most important. They represent so much of our trade, about 70% of our trade, bit more, maybe 3/4 of our total trade. And also, it's not like you can replace that. They are also the largest markets in the world. We need trade agreements with them. We need, frankly, trade deals with them. And they're not even going to touch us. They're not even going to talk to us with this bill in place. If this bill ends up going through, the EU have given us until the end of this month. If it's in place at the end of this month, forget it. Forget it. And it's so stupid because Johnson knows he daren't not actually use it. But because it will exist in law, because it's not even like you just wait till the end of the transition period to see if he'll use it. It's always going to be there. A minister at any point can say, well, it's going to be there. And Boris Johnson tried to say, we won't use this power unless, we'll come to Parliament. Parliament would have to give us permission. That's not what the bill says. If that's what he's trying to promise now, okay, take your bill away, rewrite it, redraft it, and bring it back in a more suitable form. But, and the thing, it's just maddening. It's maddeningly stupid. It's quite good from my point of view. I quite like the fact he's an idiot. Because if you just remove those clauses, the rest of the bill, which is the power grab aspect of it, sails through. All these Conservative MPs. Someone pointed out today, of all the Conservative MPs going public and saying they can't support it and everyone's applauding them, someone said, isn't it really strange and wrong that we're applauding Conservative MPs just because they refuse to break the law? Which is odd. I mean, that's the minimum we should expect of a legislator. But that's the situation. But these guys aren't necessarily principled, because without those clauses, they would let it go through. And we'd then be attacking them for facilitating a power grab on devolution in this country. So they'd still be terrible people. So I don't call them principled. It just so happens they have some principle that they will stand for, which is a lot better than most Conservative MPs at the moment. Now, there is a proposal by a Conservative MP to try and amend it so that it's still there, but the ministers can't invoke it unless they have a specific vote from Parliament on it. And this was described as creating a Schrodinger's Act, because it'll be one in which the UK both has and has not the power to break international law. Because if the government gets Parliament's okay, then they can break it, and if they don't, then they can't. It's a weird situation, but it doesn't help the international situation. That's the point. This bill needs completely trashing. And, a number of those MPs who are choosing to vote against it, or more likely abstain, that's the problem, and that's why I want to see the numbers, but I can wait till tomorrow. Abstention was the coward's way out. I'm not saying abstaining is always cowardly. It mostly is, though. There are certain situations in which you can honourably abstain from a vote. This was not one of them. The people choosing to abstain were saying, I sort of hope the bill goes through, I just don't want my fingerprints on it. Because the thing is, when you abstain, then you remove one of the votes from the government side. But if you vote against it, that's worth 2 votes, because you're reducing the votes on the government side and increasing the votes on the opposition side. In other words, if you vote against it, you make its defeat more likely. So if you really wanted to stop it, you would vote against it. When you abstain, you're actually helping it go through. It's like you're saying, I just don't want my fingerprints on this. I don't want the blame for this. But at the same time, I'm not going to do what I actually could to maximise the chance of its defeat. But it was what it was. So what's happened now with the defeat is, I say the defeat, from the opposition's point of view, it's a defeat. The government have succeeded. And it's succeeded to a second reading. So the way this thing, it has to have 3 readings and be voted through 3 times before it goes to the House of Lords, where, like I've said it before, it would be blocked. And you might think to yourself, well, if you're so confident it's going to be blocked in the Lords, why are you so het up here? It's really important. It's blocked by our elected chamber. We cannot, it's an absolute madness that we have an unelected chamber at all. But the idea is the unelected chamber of wealthy individuals who are actually representing the interests of this country over the elected chamber is a madness, an utter madness. We cannot allow that. But it is what it is. So what's happened now? It's gone through to the second reading. Now, just because it won by a fair margin doesn't mean it's going to sail through the Commons. It may, it may, but it's not necessarily. What has happened here is quite a number of MPs have voted for the second reading in the hopes that the amendment that is proposed by a Conservative backbencher will be supported. Because then they'll have no problem with it. That's what I mean. They have no problem with the overall bill, even though that's monstrous. They just want this part taken out. So it could be that the scenario unfolds. The amendment is defeated. So that way, then maybe they will vote against the bill itself. So just because it won by a fair margin does not mean that it will go through to the Lords in its current form at all. We still don't know that. Now, I am going to go through a couple of my favourite quotes from it, from the opposition side. So Ed Miliband, who you absolutely want to look up some of the things he said. One thing he said that I really liked, he said, "The Prime Minister has said many times he wants to bring unity to the country during his premiership. I therefore congratulate him in just one short year has united his 5 predecessors." Because, of course, all living Prime Ministers, other than Boris Johnson, have come out in condemnation of this move. And then the other, Rachel Reeves. And again, showing the strength of the front bench under Starmer now. And they're getting their chance to shine, which is excellent. And she is Michael Gove's opposite number. Now, Michael Gove was to finish the debate. So she spoke before him. And her parting shot was, she quoted someone. She said, "The rule of law is the most precious asset of any civilised society because it ensures that when those who hold power abuse it, they can be checked." And then she revealed that this quote was from Michael Gove, who then stood up to follow her. Brilliant move. Loved that. But the result was disappointing because I wanted this nipped in the bud right now. Even if it ends up going to the second reading and either the amendments happen, all the amendments would do would take the sting out of the tail. It wouldn't stop this. I don't think it would even stop it being a breach of international law. I'm not a legal expert. I'd wait for legal experts to talk about that. I suspect not. But it still doesn't stop it being an issue. Because again, Parliament at any time could decide to vote to break the law and it would happen without any warning from the EU's point of view. But I'll discuss the side issues later. There's a moth going mental now. But I'll leave it for there because it's bedtime. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.